What I love about Eala, the mentality is like Rafa, never say die, from start to finish, gets the job done, finds a way.
There is an invisible line inside the United States Tennis Association's ranking system, and every year that line determines who enters the U.S. Open as a seeded player. This season, that line falls at world number 32. Every player above it earns a seed, while everyone below must enter the draw without that protection. Throughout the entire Open era, spanning more than 5 decades at Flushing Meadows, no Filipino man or woman has ever finished above that line. Not once. Now, that historic streak is on the verge of ending. At just 21 years old, Alex Eala is projected to become the first Filipino player ever to receive a U.S. Open singles seed. Currently ranked number 32 in the world, with expectations of climbing even higher once her Wimbledon ranking points are officially added. She sits several places clear of the cutoff. If she maintains that position through the August seeding deadline, history will quietly be rewritten. There will be no special ceremony or dramatic announcement, just Alex Eala's name appearing in a place where no Filipino name has ever appeared before. The significance of that moment becomes even greater when you look back only 2 years. In August 2024, on those same courts in New York, Eala was battling through qualifying, hoping simply to earn a spot in her first U.S. Open main draw as a professional. She reached the final qualifying round but fell to Romania's Elena Gabriela Ruse in 3 sets, leaving New York without reaching the main draw, and without the breakthrough she had worked so hard to achieve. Fast forward 24 months, and everything has changed. Instead of fighting just to enter the tournament, she is now positioned to begin it as one of the tournament's seeded players, potentially even ranked above the same opponent who once ended her dream. However, nothing has been finalized yet. The official U.S. Open seedings will not be confirmed until several weeks before the tournament begins, leaving Eala with important work still ahead. She must navigate 2 challenging events, the Mubadala DC Open and the National Bank Open in Toronto, both featuring many of the world's best players. Several competitors sitting just behind her in the rankings remain close enough to overtake her with a deep tournament run, making every match over the coming weeks critically important. Rather than chasing the final seeding spot, Eala enters this stretch with a narrow advantage that she must defend. Like holding a lead during a tense tennis match, her position is valuable but far from secure. The encouraging news is that she has very few ranking points to defend after a quiet North American swing last season, meaning almost every victory she earns this summer will strengthen her position instead of merely protecting it. A quarterfinal appearance in either tournament could lift her to another career-high ranking and make her place among the U.S. Open seeds even more secure. That is what makes this story so compelling. It is not about revenge or rivalry. It is about opportunity, consistency, and the chance to cross a historic milestone that no Filipino tennis player has ever reached. More importantly, the growing belief that Alex Eala can achieve it is no longer built on hope alone. It is supported by the results, the rankings, and the remarkable progress she has shown throughout this breakthrough season. The biggest reason Alex Eala has put herself within reach of a U.S. Open seed is simple. She has earned it through steady progress over the past year. When March 2026 arrived, she had climbed to world number 32, a remarkable rise of more than 100 ranking places compared to the same period the previous season. Just weeks later, after reaching the 4th round at Indian Wells, she achieved a career-high ranking of number 29. Although the clay court swing proved challenging, with early exits in Madrid, Rome against Elena Rybakina, and Roland Garros against Eva Liss, she never slipped out of the world's top 50. Instead of allowing those setbacks to define her season, she responded impressively once the tour moved onto grass. She captured the Birmingham Open title, adding another WTA 125 trophy to her growing resume, before producing one of the finest tournaments of her career in Berlin. There, she defeated 2 top 10 opponents on her way to the semifinals, proving she could compete with the very best players on tour. Those performances earned her the number 29 seed at Wimbledon, making history as the first Filipino singles player, male or female, to be seeded at any Grand Slam in the Open era. That achievement transformed the conversation surrounding her career. Instead of wondering whether she belonged among the elite, the discussion shifted toward how high she could climb. Viewed through that lens, the possibility of becoming a U.S. Open seed is not a surprise or a sudden breakthrough. It is simply the next step in a remarkable season that has already produced historic milestones. Her Wimbledon campaign strengthened that belief even further. On center court, she faced one of the toughest challenges imaginable: a defending champion, a 5-time Grand Slam winner, and the world number 3. The opening set lasted an exhausting 90 minutes before Eala edged an unforgettable tiebreak 11-9, showcasing extraordinary composure under immense pressure. After the match, her opponent admitted that Eala's unique serving rhythm made her deliveries unusually difficult to read, explaining that her slower-paced serve was actually more challenging to return than a conventional one. Eala carried that momentum into a dominant second set, completing a stunning 7-6, 6-2 victory to reach the 4th round of a Grand Slam for the first time in her professional career. No Filipino singles player had ever advanced that far at a major tournament, although her inspiring run ended in the next round with a hard-fought 3-set loss to the number 13 seed, Jasmine Paolini. The result did little to diminish what she had accomplished. The real significance of that center court victory was the message it sent. When the world number 29 defeats the world number 3 on one of tennis' biggest stages, it becomes clear that her ranking is no longer a limit on her potential. It is simply the starting point for what she is capable of achieving. Beyond the rankings and statistics, there is another reason this journey feels especially meaningful. New York has become the defining backdrop of Alex Eala's career. In 2022, she lifted the U.S. Open girls singles title there, becoming the first Filipino to win a junior Grand Slam championship. 2 years later, she returned to the same venue only to suffer heartbreak in the final round of qualifying, missing out on the main draw. In 2025, she came back once again and finally broke through, defeating the number 14 seed in the opening round to become the first Filipino player of the Open era to win a Grand Slam main draw singles match. Now, in 2026, she is preparing for another chapter at those same courts, one that could see her arrive not as an underdog or a qualifier, but as the first seeded Filipino singles player in U.S. Open history. For consecutive summers, one venue, and a series of milestones that seem to build naturally upon one another. It is the kind of sporting journey that cannot be scripted, only earned through years of persistence, resilience, and continual improvement. Alex Eala's remarkable Wimbledon run did more than improve her ranking. It earned the admiration of some of the most respected voices in tennis. Watching from the BBC Radio 5 live commentary box on center court was Greg Rosetsky, the 1997 U.S. Open finalist and former world number 4, someone who understands exactly what it takes to succeed on the hard courts of New York. Moments after Eala's stunning victory, he offered a prediction that immediately caught the attention of the tennis world. He said he believes she has the talent to win Wimbledon one day and even reach the world's top 5. Speaking again on his podcast, Rosetsky praised her exceptional tennis IQ and compared her relentless fighting spirit to Rafael Nadal, highlighting her refusal to give up and her ability to find solutions under pressure. His praise was echoed by Pam Shriver, a 22-time Grand Slam doubles champion and former U.S. Open finalist, who admitted she could hardly believe what she had witnessed, calling the opening set one of the most extraordinary she had ever seen. Those comments carried real significance because they came from people who have competed at the highest level on the same courts where Eala is now making history. When former Grand Slam finalists describe a player as having top 5 potential, they are not speaking in headlines or hype. They are offering a professional assessment based on decades of experience. Their confidence reflects what Eala has already proven on the court. Yet the importance of her journey extends far beyond rankings and expert opinions. To truly appreciate the moment, it is necessary to look back through the history of Philippine tennis. Before the Open era began in 1968, the country's greatest international success belonged to Felicissimo Ampon, whose remarkable achievements included reaching the French Championships quarterfinals in both 1952 and 1953 despite standing just 4 feet 11 inches tall. Ampon became one of the most celebrated athletes in Philippine tennis history, but he competed before the modern Grand Slam era and before today's seeding system existed. Since the Open era began, no Filipino man or woman had ever entered a Grand Slam singles draw as a seeded player until Alex Eala broke that barrier at Wimbledon in 2026. If her ranking remains secure through the US Open cutoff, she will accomplish the feat again at Flushing Meadows, adding another historic first on the very courts that have shaped every major chapter of her professional career. New York is where she won the US Open girls title, where she suffered the heartbreak of falling in qualifying, where she claimed her first Grand Slam main draw victory, and where she now stands on the verge of becoming the first-seeded Filipino singles player in US Open history. Shortly after her unforgettable center court victory at Wimbledon, Eala stood before the crowd with tears in her eyes and reflected on how much the moment meant to her. She explained that while such victories might seem routine for legends like Serena Williams, Venus Williams, or Iga Swiatek, for a young girl who grew up in the Philippines practicing every afternoon with her grandfather and brother, wearing ruffled socks, high-top shoes, and dreaming of playing on the world's biggest stages, the achievement meant everything. She dedicated the victory to young girls back home who share those same dreams, reminding them that no ambition is too big, regardless of where they begin. That emotional speech revealed that this journey has never been only about rankings or tournament seedings. Every point she has earned represents years of sacrifice, family support, and determination. Of course, the story is still unfinished. Just 2 days after defeating the defending champion, Eala's Wimbledon run ended with a competitive 3-set loss to Jasmine Paolini, a player she had beaten earlier in the season. Despite the disappointment, she remained composed afterward, explaining that she was proud of the way she confronted the challenge and stayed mentally strong throughout the match. That response perhaps says as much about her future as any victory could. Champions are not defined solely by the matches they win, but by how they respond when the momentum shifts against them. As the North American hardcourt season approaches, Alex Eala is no longer chasing recognition. She is defending a place she has earned through results, resilience, and history-making performances. The opportunity to become the first-seeded Filipino player at the US Open is now within reach, and whether she secures, it will depend on what she does over the coming weeks. But one thing is already certain: her name has permanently changed the conversation about Philippine tennis, and the biggest chapters of her career may still be ahead. Despite the disappointment of her Wimbledon exit, Alex Eala left London with something even more valuable than ranking points: belief. Speaking after her hard-fought loss, she explained that she was proud of the way she handled the pressure, saying she managed to keep her emotions under control and entered every match believing she was capable of winning. That mindset has become one of the defining traits of her rapid rise. Instead of dwelling on what slipped away, Eala returned to the Philippines for a brief and well-earned break before preparing for the next stage of her season. She is scheduled to meet supporters at the Glorieta Activity Center on July 15th before beginning the crucial North American hardcourt swing, with tournaments in Washington and Toronto. Those events will determine whether her place among the US Open seeds becomes official or whether she is forced into one final battle for the ranking position she has worked so hard to earn. The situation is straightforward but far from settled. Right now, Eala sits comfortably around 4 to 6 places above the projected seeding cutoff, giving her a valuable cushion. Even more encouraging is the fact that she has very few ranking points to defend from this portion of last season, meaning almost every victory over the coming weeks will strengthen her position rather than simply protect it. The downside is limited, while the opportunity to climb even higher remains very real. That is why this moment feels so different from anything she has experienced before. Just 2 years ago, during this same stretch of the calendar, she was leaving New York after falling in the final round of qualifying, wondering when another opportunity would come. Today, she is preparing to return to those same courts with the realistic possibility of becoming the first Filipino player in the Open era to receive a U.S. Open singles seed. Looking back, the progression almost feels unbelievable. In 2022, she celebrated a U.S. Open Junior Championship. In 2024, she experienced the heartbreak of narrowly missing the main draw. In 2025, she finally earned her first Grand Slam main draw victory as a professional. Now, in 2026, she stands on the verge of writing another historic chapter by entering the tournament as one of its seeded competitors. 4 consecutive Augusts at the same venue have told the story of her development more clearly than any ranking ever could. Her growing reputation has also been recognized by the tournament itself. On August 27th, Eala is scheduled to appear during the U.S. Open Fan Week, Stars of the Open event alongside several of tennis' brightest young talents, a clear sign that she is now viewed as one of the sport's emerging stars. She has earned that recognition not through reputation or marketing, but through consistent results against some of the world's best players. The rankings, the victories, and the milestones have all pointed in the same direction. They have quietly confirmed that Alex Eala belongs on tennis' biggest stages. Still, perhaps the most memorable part of this journey is not a ranking number or a place on a seeding list. It is the image of a young Filipina standing on center court, fighting back tears as she remembered the little girl practicing after school with her grandfather, wearing ruffled socks and oversized high-top shoes while dreaming of moments exactly like these. That story has inspired countless fans because it reminds them that extraordinary achievements often begin with ordinary dreams. The seeding line may ultimately become another statistic recorded in tennis history, but the journey behind it is what people will remember. Whether she officially secures a U.S. Open seed or falls just short, Alex Eala has already changed what Filipino tennis players can believe is possible. And with the biggest tournaments of the summer still ahead, the next chapter of her remarkable story is only beginning.